Is on the NBA on TNT. We'll get into some basketball as well as some baseball here. BA, good morning, man. How you been?
I'm doing great. Good to be back in San Francisco, man. I always enjoy time here, and I get to come here a lot, of course, with the Warriors. So this is my second baseball trip out here, first with TBS and now the Brew Crew.
What is your go-to activity when you touch down in San Francisco? What is the thing you have to do?
Getting a Patagonia vest because you clearly didn't realize how cold it was?
Well, it's in Milwaukee.
Oh, man, I'm from Wisconsin. Come on now. We're all dialed up. We don't need any clothing. You know, we got plenty of clothing. Yeah, I love going down to the pier. I'm all about that. At the restaurants, the food, it's all good. I don't venture too far out of downtown. Stay around the hotel, but man, being at the ballpark is really all you need. I mean, I probably venture out more during the basketball season, just because you know, in baseball season, you got that view, man. I get lost out there looking out over McCovey Cove and into the bay, and sometimes I forget to watch the game, and I lose where the ball is. So that's one of my favorite ballparks in the world.
So let me ask you a question then. As you peer out into the fog with boats coming in, does one of those boats, as you referenced the Golden State Warriors, does it contain Kevin Durant coming to the Warriors?
I have not seen him. I thought maybe he'd be at the hotel, but everybody seems to be looking for him, cardboard cutouts and whatnot.
What would the outrage be?
I don't know about that. I am thumbs down on Durant to the Warriors.
Why?
Would say. I don't know. It feels like it's been done. You know, I think it's part of the entertainment side of my industry where we've kind of been down that road before. I like the Warriors the way they are now.
I'm with you,
B. They seem to be good enough as they are right now.
And I think there's a lot of Warrior fans who feel like you, as we're talking to Brian Anderson, the voice of the Milwaukee Brewers. Of course, you can catch him on TNT, calling basketball games as well. We're with you there. I think Shasky and I are with you because Kuminga, Moody, Wiseman, we want to see them grow. But also Jordan Poole and Andrew Wiggins. Watching those two fellas ascend to the level that they did during this postseason, you kind of fall in love with that. And the lack of drama, it was fun. You see Steph Curry leaning away. Now, I don't know about the reports about Steph Curry reaching out to Kevin Durant or if he would say no. But this is a fun group, and who's to say they can't win a championship next year with the same exact group? And I also don't think it guarantees anything if you bring in Kevin Durant, because he is getting older, and he's slipping a little bit defensively. He's still a great, great player, but they have a nice nucleus here. I wouldn't want to break it up either, B.A.
Kevin Durant's like, in baseball terms, it's like a historically good closer. You're stuck with him, and that could be a good thing. He could be great. He is great. But, Durant is on the back half of his career, and you don't know. You don't know where the next injury is. So, for me, I love the way the Warriors put this thing together this year. It's a real team, a bunch of grinders, and they're superstars now, Clay and Stephen. And they are stars. I mean, they are. They're the brightest lights in the game, but they weren't always that way. That's what I love about those guys. Draymond's the same way. I covered Draymond a ton in college, and nobody expected him to be this kind of player in the NBA. So, these are not like the guys that you knew. They're not like LeBron was, where he was the anointed one. So even though they are superstars now, even their beginnings were as the overachievers, the underdogs. So I love that they're at the front now. Steve Kerr's a perfect example of that himself. I mean, the guy's got 9 rings, and I just love the way they put the team together and the way they built, the way they developed. Bob Myers does a great job. They have vision for their players. And every player pretty much gets better when they play for the Warriors. And I worked for the Spurs for years. For 14 years, I was with the Spurs organization. I saw it every year. Nobody knew Tony Parker. There was so much criticism about Tony Parker. When they drafted him, he was 19 years old and gave him the keys to the car. Nobody knew Manu Ginobili. They couldn't even say his name right. And they became stars, and their numbers are going to hang, and they're going to have statues out there. And so I love that whole philosophy. So that's where I enjoy the game, and I enjoy covering those kind of teams that are real teams, that are put together, and the pieces fit. And, of course, you got 2 Milwaukee guys on the Warriors, too, and Looney and Poole. So, we love those guys as well.
I love it. We're talking to Brian Anderson here. He's in town for the Brewers and Giants. They got a little series going on at Oracle Park. I'm looking at your Brewer team, and I feel like I thought they could meet in the playoffs, the Giants and the Brewers last year. And I just was, kind of looking at the roster, and everybody knows a couple guys on your team. And I want to start with Christian Yelach. This is a guy everyone in baseball was salivating over just a couple of years ago. 300 hitter. He hits for a lot of doubles. He's extremely athletic. He seems to be very lovable and likable. What's happened the last couple of years? Why is there such a drop-off in his power numbers, but also just the batting average in general?
Yeah, I mean, the way to look at Christian Yelich now is he is the highest paid player, but he's not the best player, and he will never be the best player for the Brewers again. He was an MVP in 2018. He was runner-up for MVP in 2019. Historically good years for the Brewers. Right before the pandemic, he signed a long multi-year contract, but then started to develop some back problems, and now those back problems are chronic back problems. So that hurts. I mean, that hurts him. It hurts the Brewers badly. Brewers aren't a franchise like the Giants, who have plenty of payroll and plenty of spending power. They don't have the option to go cover that. So Christian, at this point, is a guy who gets through it. He's gonna have to get through it. He's got a 9-year deal. He's got 7 years left on that deal. Actually, 8 if he wants.
Wow.
But he's a good player. I don't want to say he's a leadoff hitter now, and he's a good player and very fast, and he can go get him in the outfield. He can't throw anymore, really, but he's a good player. Gets on base, leads the team, and walks and runs and hits, and so he gets his singles. But he's not a star high WAR player. He's not that anymore. So I try to tell people, don't. Everybody says Christian Yelich and the Brewers coming to town. That's not the case. This team is their star is Corbin Burns right now, who gets the ball tonight. So really, the Brewers are a really great pitching staff with a below-average offense that has an incredibly gifted bullpen, especially the two at the back, even though Josh Hader has really struggled here in his last week.
Devin Williams.
Devin Williams and Hader are the two great finishers in the game, and then you add Brad Boxberger, who's been great in the seventh. So really, getting a lead after 6 innings is pretty much a win for the Brewers. So it forces you into a very short game, which the Brewers can win that way, and that's why they have won, and they lead the division. You're catching them at the right time. I mean, the Brewers they're banged up like crazy. They've got so many injuries. I'm amazed. I am shocked that they're still in the position they are, honestly. They've lost 3 of their main top starters. They just got 2 of them back. They're getting one back in Peralta probably in a month. But, they've been pitching without 3/5 of their rotation the whole year, and they're still able to put wins together, string wins together. They've lost a ton of their bullpen, their key arms in their bullpen. Their 4 main guys offensively have only been together for 4 games, and they're 4-0 in those games. So they lost their shortstop, they lost their right fielder. I could go on, and everybody's dealing with injuries. But, man, they have been, for a small market team, they've been pulling up guys from AAA you've never heard of that have been amazing. So I think it's quite a success story.
Well, it sounds like the Giants this year, because they've been pulling guys left and right up from AAA that we never heard of. We're talking to Brian Anderson, the voice of the Brewers. Of course, catch him on NBA on TNT throughout the regular season and the playoffs. Does a great job with Jim Jackson or Stan Van Gundy. You brought up Josh Hader giving up 4 runs in 4 of his last 5 outings. But when you look at the Giants and from afar, they're 45-42. They just scraped out a series win against the Diamondbacks yesterday. What is the outlook for the Giants? Because they don't have that star player. You guys have Christian Yelich, and I get it. He's not the best player in the Brewers anymore. But outside of Logan Webb and Carlos Rodon, the Giants have a bunch of ifs on their team. What is your perception of the Giants in 2022?
Yeah, and I've seen him up close. I've had him a few times on TBS this year, and certainly know Gabe Kapler well. Gabe was a former Brewer, and he and Craig Counsell are very close. And I've had a lot of conversations with Gabe Kapler, and, I'm a big believer in what they're doing in their front office with Farhan Zahidi. And our old guy, Zach Manassian, is one of Farhan's right-hand men, and he was with our organization as well. So I'm a believer in what they're doing. I do think they're on the right path. They've been able to be competitive and win. Of course, 107 wins last year, but also make sure they have players for the future as well. So I like the way they're running their pitching. For me, looking at the two Brandons is kind of where it all lies now that Posey's gone. He was just that monster presence, that every team needs. And I'm not sure Belt and Crawford are those. They're not that kind of presence, but they can be enough of a presence with all they've been through. Can they stay healthy and can they produce is going to be the major question. Otherwise, it's a team that's probably, a wild card contending team for sure. I don't think they're a division contending team, especially with the Dodgers right now. Everything hit last year. Everything went right. And you don't get those years very often. So now you have to start to think about, well, what are you? They've got a huge decision to make before the trade deadline. I mean, they've got some pieces that are very attractive and everybody would want. But, are you a buyer or are you a seller? What do you have to go get a piece? I think they're in a similar position as the Brewers. In my mind, there's not one player that is going to tip the scales for the Brewers. So if that's the case, meaning why would you empty out 2 or 3 prospects and maybe a draft pick for a player that, even if you got a great player, that's not going to tip the scales for Milwaukee. And I don't think that one player would tip the scales for the Giants either. So then do you hold pat? Do you see, let it ride it out and see what you can do with your current roster and then, attack it this offseason? Or do you just take a major gamble and try to home run with a piece like Rodon, who's been amazing, who's got an opt-out coming in 10 more innings? I mean, there's a ton of decisions to make with the Giants. I don't envy these GMs and these heads of baseball operations for either of these organizations because both are good enough to be playoff teams. Are you playing to make the playoffs? Or do you honestly believe you can contend for a World Series championship right now? And that's a hard question. I'm not sure for either team, but you get in the postseason, especially from the Brewers' perspective with their pitching, and the Giants feel great about their pitching. If you can roll in a 3-game first and then a 5-game and then a 7-game with your pitching, who knows, man? I've seen worse teams win titles for sure.
No doubt about that. Brian Anderson here on the Morning Rush on 95.7 The Game. Hopefully this Brewers-Giants set brings us some of the thrills from last season. They played 7 riveting games, 3 in Milwaukee, of course, a couple extra inning affairs, and the 4 down in San Francisco. Should be a fun one. A lot of pitching this weekend in Oracle Park. Brian, we always appreciate the time, and thanks for the take on Kevin Durant as well.
Oh, of course. I'm leaving you with one question that's been nagging at me. This is for you and your listeners to ponder. I just left St. Louis. Who's more famous in St. Louis, Albert Pujols or Nelly?
Oh, Nelly, hands down.
That's what I think.
Yeah, Albert Pujols left you guys in the Midwest. Oh, it's Nelly in the Band-Aid. No, we were wearing Band-Aids in San Francisco, BA, when Nelly was rhyming. What do you think, Shaska? It's got to be Nelly.
We're going downtown, baby. Come on.
There
it's a classic.
I said in St. Louis, though. I'm not talking about here.
In St. Louis. It's got to be Nelly.
Yeah,
no, hands
St.
down.
Lunatics.
Yeah,
we're not talking about Darius
I
Miles.
agree with you, but, man, I got some serious blowback on that notion.
Well, you know what, St. Louis folks? Jason Tatum in a few years may be the most popular guy in St. Louis. He may usurp Albert Pujols
Sam
there.
Musial on line
Yeah,
one.
he'll never catch Nelly, though. Nobody's catching Nelly in St. Louis.
No, not even the great Bob Gibson.
Kenny Chesney did a song with him.
Only because we saw him at the ballpark on a TBS game. He was great. Cool. We had a blast with him, and he was great with the fans. But that question came up. I feel you guys are pop culture kings.
Yeah, no doubt.
I'll throw that out there.
Yeah. No doubt. BA, anything for you, man. Have some great calls this weekend. Come by and say hi.
See you guys.
All right, BA. Brian Anderson here on the Morning Roast on 95.7 The Game. Talk